also had to deal with the racism in the area. Now, when my mom was around, she would take me to school because we had like a big field in the back of the house, and you could actually cross the field and go to school and all that. But she always took me when she was there. But when she wasn't there, and he was like, well, you're going to have to walk. Going there, I would encounter, you know, some guys riding along in pickup trucks with shotguns threatening me to my, yo, N-word this, N-word that, you know, spitting at me to my, we're going to do this to you. I would get threatened on the way to school, on the way back home from school. It was crazy. But, you know, moving right along with the story now, we're going to get into the setup. I just gave you a little bit of the backstory. We're getting into the setup that happened there. Now, when I was there, I made what I thought was a friend. Hey guys, thanks for watching. And this is my new video titled, A Valuable Lesson in Street Survival. And under this title, I'll be releasing a series of episodes called LB Tales from the Hood. So this here is episode 1. And the name of this episode is The Beginning and the Setup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to my backstory for as far back as I could pretty much remember, when I was about 5 years old, and the year was around 1983. So what happened is my mother, she wasn't with my biological dad that very long, only for like a couple of months before she divorced him. So she remarried around the age of 5 in 83, or when I was 5, and we moved from New York to Seattle, Washington. So when I went there, it was like a big cultural shock. Like, my mother was in the military. We lived on a military base, but it wasn't like a typical like military base. It was like a apartment complex, but regardless, there was a lot of military folk. And what was different about it was, you know, unbeknownst to my mom at the time, the area was really highly racist. Like, we went through a lot of stuff. We went through a lot of trials and tribulations, like garbage being burned on our lawn and all types of stuff, threats. So anyway, I mean, life was pretty good at first. You know, my mother had to travel occasionally with the military. She'd be gone for 2 weeks sometimes, you know, sometimes just weekends. And it was like once a month. I think she was out of active duty, and if I remember correctly, she was in the reserve. But anyway, when she was with my stepfather, I mean, life was great. We did things together. My favorite, you know, movie was Superman, so we would watch that all together as a family. And it seemed to be a perfect, loving family. But what my mother didn't know is when she would leave, my stepfather would like, he was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He would like transform. He was a completely different person. You know, he really, I could tell, it was crazy because he really didn't love me like that. Like, you know, certain things happen. Like, I'll give you for instance, you know, I asked him one time, my favorite was a grilled cheese sandwich, and I asked him could he make me a sandwich, and he was like, no. He was like, you go make it yourself in the kitchen. And I was telling him, like, my mom told me don't touch the stove or anything like that. It's dangerous. I'm too young. And he was like, well, if you can't make it, you're not eating. So he would do stuff like lock me in my room, and, you know, I have to go in there for, you know, a day or two without eating. It was crazy. I mean, the funny thing about all that, though, is basically I fast now, and sometimes I fast for extended periods, 2-3 days. I even did it one time a week. So it's kind of like that prepared me for fasting, but that was like an involuntary fast. But, you know, getting off that, anywho, you know what I'm saying? It was crazy with him and all that. But aside from that, I also had to deal with the racism in the area. Now, when my mom was around, she would take me to school because we had like a big field in the back of the house, and you could actually cross the field and go to school and all that. But she always took me when she was there. But when she wasn't there, and he was like, well, you're going to have to walk. Going there, I would encounter, you know, some guys riding along in pickup trucks with shotguns threatening me to my, yo, N-word this, N-word that. You know, spitting at me, talking about, we're going to do this to you. I would get threatened on the way to school, on the way back home from school. It was crazy. But, you know, moving right along with the story now, we're going to get into the setup. I just gave you a little bit of the backstory. We're getting into the setup that happened there. Now, when I was there, I made what I thought was a friend, and it was a young Hispanic kid. And there's a reason why I'm telling you his ethnicity, which I'll get into later. So, one day I was riding my bike after school. You know, we was having fun. I went with the young man I thought was my friend. So he led me out to an area that I wasn't familiar with, you know, outside of where my house was and outside the general area. And like I said, I was new to the area. I was unfamiliar with it. But what he didn't tell me was this area was unfriendly to people who look like me. So we got off our bikes, and he was like, yeah, this is where we're going to play at. And when I got off my bike, he basically hopped onto his bike and he took off real fast. He's pedaling away, and I'm sitting there like looking around like, yo, where'd he go? Why'd he leave me? So I'm confused. I'm in this whole area. I don't know where I'm at. And the next thing you know, a bunch of older kids. I mean, I was young, so I'm 5. I'm trying to go off memory, but they were bigger than me. I think some may have been the same size, some bigger. I don't know, but like I said, it was so many years ago. But all these kids just ganged around me. I don't even know how many of them were, and they started stomping on me, beating on me, stomping me out, punching me. Just basically, they beat me unconscious because after a while, when you're getting jumped like that and beat down, I just blacked out. I blacked out. Didn't know what was going on. So I wake up some time later, bruised up, messed up, bloody and everything. So I grabbed my bike, so I'm pushing my bike alongside the road, completely lost. I don't know where I'm at. So at this time, my mom and my stepdad, they was out looking for me. So I happened to see them when I was pushing my bike alongside the road, and they got me, brought me in the car, brought the bike in, drove me home or whatever. I got bandaged up. So, my mother, basically, I asked her, why was it like this? Why would people do this to me? I mean, I didn't do anything to anyone. And basically, she explained to me like this, man. And it's to this day why I'm not racist. She said, look, she was like, some people are not gonna like you because of the color of your skin, because of whatever, or it could be whatever reason, whatever personal stuff they have going on in their head. But she said everybody's not like that. So never judge a whole group of people off of the harmful actions or the negative actions of a few. So she was like, that kid that did that, at least I see he wasn't a friend, but he wasn't reflective of the whole Hispanic race. And those kids that jumped me, that happen to be white, that's not reflective of their whole race. So, I took that, in the mind, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to judge each person by their character. That's what she told me. She was like, take each person as an individual and judge them in their character. And when people show you who they are, and they tell you who they are, believe them, and stay away from those types of people. So, like I said, to this day, that's why I'm not racist. I've had friends of all different colors and races. And to be honest with you, a lot of people who look just like me actually did me just as bad as dirty and stabbed me in the back, just like other races. So, I mean, if that's the case, I'd be racist against people my own color. But, I'm not, man. I take people as they come. I don't discriminate according to gender, race, and any of that. And, it was real crazy. Like I said, around 5 years old was the first time I was called the N-word. And it wasn't a term of endearment. Trust me, when they used it, I didn't even know what it meant. And when I went home and I first asked my mom about it, I said, what does the N-word mean? She said, oh, she's like, that's just a negative word. Don't worry about it. And I could see the tears in her eyes and everything. And it was crazy. So, but like I said, I don't judge, a whole race because of the actions of a few. Just like I later on in years, I lived in the projects that was mainly Hispanic. It was like probably over 90%. It was only like myself and like maybe two other black families in the building. But you know what? They showed me the most love, man. And if I had let that one incident from my childhood make me, hate or go against a whole like ethnic group of people, then I would have never had the love I received and branched out and met some real cool people. And also a lot of, goodness in their culture between their food and just music and a whole bunch of things. But anyhow, I'm not going to drag this story on. So that's basically it. That's my backstory, where I come from. And, another thing, too, it's like during those times, I used to pray. I used to pray every night like, yo, God, please just take me out of this situation. I actually used to pray that I would not wake up the next day. I was like, let me go on my sleep because it was like, it was like a living hell, just to be honest with you. Excuse my language, but it is what it is. That's what it felt like. And, I was like, maybe I'm cursed. I actually started thinking maybe I was like, if I was born a different color, I wouldn't be going through all this. Life is so rough because I was born, brown skin. But, I've learned later on in life to embrace that. And it's not a curse. It's not an affliction. And everything you go through, what don't kill you can make you stronger. So I went through that for a reason. I survived for a reason. And I'm here to give my testimony. So that's the only reason why I'm telling this story now. I developed this whole series because I was like, everything I went through in life, we can suffer through things, but what do we take from those lessons that we learn? And I'm like, I could take what I learned from the different experiences that I had growing up, and I could teach others, and I could tell others, and it could be a cautionary tale, and also I can show them how to maneuver, or how I learned how to maneuver, and maybe they could take something from it, and they can learn, and that's just another tool to your toolkit. Because years ago when I was in engineering school, they taught me, they was like, we're going to give you different tools, and for making music and manipulating sound. And these are different tools in your toolkit. The more tools you have, the better off you'll be. The more knowledge base you have to work on. So basically, that's why I'm sharing my testimony. And I think you'll enjoy some of the stories. Oh, also, when I used to pray to God, I said, wait till I get older, don't wait till I get bigger. I said, I'm never going to be a victim again. I said, I'm going to learn how to fight. And, I'm going to take up combat and just figure out how to defend myself. And not only defend myself, defend, my family and others who may be too weak or couldn't fully defend themselves. And, I feel like I've accomplished that goal. And that was the first time I ever got jumped. But I got jumped one other time after that. And actually, that was when I was in 6th grade in junior high. And I was basically caught lacking. I got jumped by a gang. But, that's another story for another episode. And let me try to get a close up of my tooth. To this day, that's why that tooth right there is chipped. Back then, when I got jumped and I had chipped my tooth, I had got it bonded by a dentist. The bond lasted for years, like probably almost 20 years. But, since then the bond wore off. I went to the dentist, had it fixed, had to get it rebonded. But look, like I said, that story is for another episode. We'll say that to them. But this is the end of the first episode, LB Tales from the Hood, the beginning and the setup. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Look, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that notification, because I will be dropping episodes weekly. The story is going to only get more interesting, more exciting. I'm sure you guys you'll like it. Hopefully you learn something from it. You'll be able to, take it. Maybe it can help save your life one day. Some of the stuff that I learned from certain people and some experience I had, it saved my life, further down the line. So you'll see. I'm not going to give any more away. See you guys on the next one. And just want you to chill to the next episode. This is your boy LB. Peace out. Hey guys, just a quick edit. I had to go back because I realized I left a little bit of the story out towards the end, just to give you guys a little bit of context. So, okay, the thing is, why didn't I tell my mom when my stepdad was threatening me? Well, the thing about it is, my stepdad also threatened when he locked me in the room and things he did to me. He was like, it wasn't any type of molest or anything like that, but, threatening me with physical violence, just, the mental abuse. He said that if I ever told my mom, he would hurt me and he would hurt her. And see, I wasn't really worried about it. I mean, at that point, especially after the beat downs from the kids that time when I got jumped and everything, I could take the physical pain, but I didn't want anything to happen to my mom. So I hid it for her. And plus, she seemed to be happy with him. He played it off like he was a perfect husband, the perfect dad. So she was happy. And, I seen her smile in life, and it brought me joy to see her have joy. So, and plus with him threatening me, I didn't tell her. I hid it from her. And the thing about it is, I also felt like I didn't have anybody else I could tell. I mean, I had grandparents back in New York, but at that time I figured, my grandfather, I thought he was too old at the time to do something about it, and he was all the way in New York. But at the same time, I didn't know he was as strong as he was. I found out at a later date. But also, my dad was never in my life. I didn't meet him for the first time till I was 16, and because I didn't have a father around, I was like, if I could have told him, wherever he was, he could have came and maybe helped out the situation, helped me out, straighten this guy out. But that's why I learned too, it's important for children to have their fathers in their life. So any of you guys out there, any of you dads, make sure you really are a part of that child's life. Whether you're with the women or not, you got to be a part of that child's life. You got to communicate with them, see if they need anything. Be there to protect these babies, man. Protect these babies. And that's why, I have 2 children of my own. I'm like, I can never abandon them, no matter what. I would never leave them, and I always make sure they're good. But, yeah, so anyway, he used to threaten me. He would threaten my mother. But I only had to endure that torture for about a year. Because after about a year, they got divorced when I was around the age of 6. So when they got divorced, we left Seattle, Washington. We moved back to New York. And that's where my story continues. And where I'll pick up the next episode. So until then, like I said, peace. Chill to the next episode.